They mourned. They celebrated. They remembered. Across the galaxy, billions watched as the impossible became reality. The 3 Velkan colony worlds had fallen, not destroyed, not burned into lifeless planets, but defeated. Their military forces had been completely shattered, and their governments had been forced to surrender. Millions of Velkan civilians were now fleeing toward Council-controlled space, their refugee ships overflowing with families searching for safety. Entire generations were leaving behind everything they had ever known. In the Galactic Council chambers, Counselor Vexile watched the refugee transmissions with growing horror. He belonged to the Toral Unity, a species that had spent centuries preaching diplomacy, balance, and peace. But now, he was watching that peace collapse. "This is madness," Vexile whispered to his aide. His voice carried no anger, only disbelief. "The humans are fighting a war of total destruction. Have they forgotten restraint?" The aide remained silent for a moment before answering. "They haven't forgotten, Counselor." He looked toward the endless streams of refugees appearing on the screens. "They're choosing not to use it." Vexile said nothing. His thoughts returned to the recording that had spread across the galaxy. The transmission from the New Dawn. Every species had seen it. The desperate pleas for help, the final warnings, the silence that followed, and the moment humanity realized no one was coming. "We failed them," Vexile finally said. His expression darkened. The Council failed them. He stared at the destruction unfolding across the galaxy. And now, they believe we all deserve the consequences. Around him, the Galactic Council chamber erupted into chaos. Representatives shouted over one another. Some demanded humanity be stopped. Others argued that humanity had only become what the galaxy had allowed it to become. For the first time in centuries, the greatest political power in the galaxy had no answer. Because deep down, they all knew the same truth. They had created the enemy they feared. Some species wanted to send military forces to stop the humans. Others refused to get involved. A few had secretly opened communication channels with Earth, offering trade deals and recognition. "This is cowardice," the Krill representative shouted. "We outnumber the humans 1,000 to 1. We should crush them." "Then why don't you?" Vexile asked calmly. "Your military is the largest in council space. Attack them. Well, see how it goes." The Krill representative went silent. Nobody wanted to be the next target of human anger. The Velkan representative, looking exhausted and defeated, stood. "The hegemony is willing to surrender. We ask only that the Council help negotiate terms." "Surrender?" someone gasped. "To Deathworlders. They're not just Deathworlders," the Velkan said bitterly. "They're warriors. Real warriors." We had forgotten what that meant. Admiral Kyong-Su received the Velkan surrender offer on his flagship. He read it carefully. Full recognition of Earth's sovereignty. Reparations for the New Dawn victims' access to Vulcan trade routes. It was generous Ambassador Sora, now serving as his advisor, read over his shoulder. "It's a good offer, better than we hoped for." "It's not enough," Kyong-Gu said. "The Velkans were one of 6. What about the others?" He pulled up a list. The Krill Empire, the Dorian Confederacy, the Pack Alliance, the Zen Collective, the Hurion Commonwealth. All had received the New Dawn's distress call. All had ignored it. "We continue," he said. "The Velkan surrender is accepted, but we move on to the next target." The fleet split again. Task forces headed toward different regions of space. Each one carried the same message, the same anger, the same determination, but something was changing in the fleet. Not all humans were comfortable with the expanding war. Captain Yong-Su commanded the cruiser Justice. He had supported the war at the beginning. His brother had died on the New Dawn. He wanted justice. But now, watching refugee ships flee from his fleet's advance, he was starting to question what justice meant. His ship was patrolling near a Dorian colony when sensors detected a transport. It was civilian, unarmed, filled with life signs. "Captain, it's a refugee ship," his sensor officer reported. "Mostly children. They're fleeing to neutral space." Yong-Su looked at the display. The transport was old, slow. It would be easy to destroy. His orders were to stop all Dorian military movements. Some commanders had interpreted that broadly. Are there any military personnel aboard? Negative, sir. Just civilians, families. Yang Su thought about the new dawn. 200 civilians, families, children. The aliens had let them die. Now he had the power to do the same to them. Open a channel, he ordered. The Dorian transport captain appeared on screen, looking terrified. She had blue skin and large eyes. She was shaking. Human warship, we are unarmed civilians. Please, we have children aboard. We're just trying to reach safety. Yang Su looked at her. Then he looked at his crew. They were watching him, waiting for orders. Dorian transport, you will alter course, he said. Head to these coordinates. It's a neutral way station. You'll be safe there. My ship will escort you. You're letting us go. We're not monsters, Yongu said quietly. We remember what it feels like to be helpless. We will not become what we hate. He turned to his communications officer. Broadcast this on all channels. Make sure everyone hears it. The Justice escorted the refugee transport to safety. Hyung-Soo's broadcast spread across the galaxy faster than any battle report. We are at war, he said in the recording. We are fighting for justice for those who died, but we will not harm the innocent. We will not ignore cries for help even from our enemies. That's what makes us different. That's what makes us human. The message reached Admiral Kyong-gu 3 days later. He watched it in his ready room alone. Then he watched it again. He thought about his sister, his niece. Would they have wanted this war? Would they have wanted him to hurt innocent people in their name? He didn't know anymore. Former Ambassador Sora found him there staring at the display. She had been visiting the medical bay, talking to wounded crew members. The casualties were mounting. So far, Earth had lost 300 people in the campaign. 300 names added to the memorial lists. Captain Yong-Su's message is causing trouble, she said. Some ships are questioning the mission. Some crews are asking if we've gone too far. Have we? Kyong-gu asked. Sora sat down. I don't know. I supported this war. I still do. But when does justice become revenge? When do we stop? When they answer for what they did, they are answering. The Vulcans surrendered. The Dorian are negotiating. 3 other species have sent peace offers. Only the Krill are still refusing. Kyong-gu pulled up casualty reports. Human casualties. Alien casualties. The numbers were growing. The Council is terrified. Sora continued. They're offering Earth full membership, a seat at the table. Everything we asked for before. Because we have guns pointed at them. Doesn't matter. Why? We'll get what we wanted. Recognition. Rights. A voice in galactic affairs. Isn't that enough? Kyong-gu was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. Gather the fleet commanders. I want a conference. It's time to decide our next move. The conference happened over secure channels. Every ship commander in the fleet attended. Admiral Kyong-gu addressed them from the bridge of the Remember Them. We've accomplished more in 6 weeks than diplomacy achieved in 20 years, he began. The Galactic Council recognizes Earth. They're offering membership, trade agreements, technology sharing, everything we wanted. He paused. But 5 species still haven't answered for ignoring the new dawn. The question before us, do we continue until all 6 have surrendered, or do we accept what we've achieved and stop? The commanders debated. Some wanted to continue until every guilty species had paid. Others argued they had made their point. A few suggested the war was becoming something ugly, something that dishonored the memory of those who died. Captain Yong-Su spoke last. I lost my brother on the new dawn. I wanted revenge. I still want it. But I keep thinking about that refugee ship. Those children, they look just like Dawn's pictures. Scared, helpless. Is this what we've become? People who frighten children? General Hana, commanding the Marine Forces, responded. We're not frightening children. We're holding governments accountable. There's a difference. Is there? Yongu asked. When does accountability end and cruelty begin? The debate went on for hours. Finally, Admiral Kyong-su called for a vote. Simple question. Continue the campaign against all 6 species or accept current terms and negotiate peace. The vote was close. 53% voted to continue. 47% voted to stop. Kyung-soo looked at the results for a long time. Then he made his decision. "We continue," he said, "but with new rules. No attacks on civilian targets, no refugee ships threatened. We fight military forces only, and we accept surrender the moment it's offered. This is about justice, not extermination." He looked around at the commanders on the screen. "We're not monsters. We're not the council that let people die. We're better than that. We'll prove it." The conference ended. Orders went out to the fleet. The war would continue, but with restraint. In the Galactic Council chambers, Councillor Vexile worked frantically on a new proposal, something that would end the war, something that would satisfy both sides. He called it the Deathworlder Accords, a complete restructuring of Council emergency protocols. No distress call would ever be ignored again. All species had the right to rescue and aid. Earth would get full Council membership immediately. But more than that, Earth would help write the new rules. The species that had been rejected would now help govern the galaxy. It was radical. It was unprecedented. It was the only way to end the war without more bloodshed. Vexile presented his proposal to the Council. Many species objected. Some called it surrender. Others said it gave too much power to humans. "Then fight them," Vexile said simply. "If you don't like the terms, fight them. See how that works out." Nobody volunteered. The proposal passed, barely. The vote was sent to Earth. On the Remember Them, Admiral Kyung-gu read the Deathworlder Accords. It was everything Earth had asked for and more. Full recognition, equal rights, a say in galactic governance. But it was also a choice. Accept this and end the war now, or reject it and continue fighting. Kyung-soo thought about his sister, his niece. 200 people who died asking for help. If he accepted these terms, no one would ever. Major Dong-soo watched the new recruits struggle through the training course. They wore full combat armor and moved through the zero-gravity chamber, trying to hit targets while floating in 3 dimensions. "Too slow," he shouted. "In real combat, you'll be dead 3 times over." Again, the recruits reset and tried again. They were getting better. They had to. The fleet would launch in 2 weeks. On the observation deck above, a group of aliens watched. They were from neutral species, observers sent to report on Earth's military preparations. One of them, a being named Rix from the Toral Unity, turned to his companion. "They train in zero gravity without assistance suits," Rix said, his voice translated by a device. "That should be impossible. Most species need artificial gravity supports, or they become disoriented." His companion, a reptilian female named Ska, nodded slowly. "Look at their movements. They're adaptation predators. Watch how quickly they adjust to the environment." Below, a recruit finally completed the course successfully. Tongu nodded approval. "Better. Remember, most alien ships have lower gravity than Earth. You'll feel lighter, faster. Use that advantage. Our bones are denser. Our muscles are stronger. What would kill them? We can survive." Rix made notes on his datapad. "This is disturbing. They're preparing to board ships to fight hand-to-hand in space." "Nobody does that anymore," Scott whispered. "Ship-to-ship combat is done with weapons from distance. They're planning to get close to make it personal." Later, Donggu met with the observers. They asked him questions about human training methods. "Why don't your soldiers use gravity assistance?" Rix asked. Donggu smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "Because Earth has 3 times the gravity of a standard council world. We grew up in what you would call a crushing environment. This," he gestured at the training room. "This is easy for us. But the pressure is nothing. On Earth, our atmosphere is thicker than most planets. Our weather is violent. We evolved to survive storms that would flatten your buildings, to hunt prey across distances that would exhaust most species." Donggu pulled up a holographic image of Earth. "Our planet tried to kill us every day. Predators, diseases, natural disasters. We survived by being tougher and more adaptable than anything else." "You call us Deathworlders? You're right. That's exactly what we are." Rix and Scott exchanged nervous glances. Across the base, Dr. Ya-Jin was giving a lecture to a different group of observers. She was a xenobiologist, an expert on alien life. But today, She was teaching them about humans. "Let me explain why your governments are frightened," she said, standing before a holographic model of a human body. Human reaction time averages 2 seconds. That's nearly twice as fast as the galactic standard. We process threats and respond before most species even register danger. She changed the image. Human endurance is another factor. We're persistence hunters. On Earth, our ancestors would chase prey for hours, sometimes days, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. We can run dozens of kilometers without stopping. Can your species do that? The observers were silent. Our adaptability is what really concerns the Council, Yejin continued. Humans can survive in extreme heat and extreme cold. We can adjust to different air pressures, different gravities, different environments. Put a human anywhere, and within weeks they'll figure out how to survive. That's not normal. That's terrifying. She looked at her audience. You want to know why the Council refused to help the New Dawn? Because they're afraid. They're afraid that if humans spread across the galaxy, nothing will be able to stop us. One observer raised a tentacle. But surely humans have weaknesses. Of course, Yajin said, we're mortal. We can be killed, but we're very hard to kill. And we don't give up ever. That's the problem. Most species will surrender when the fight looks hopeless. Humans don't think like that. We fight harder when things get worse. She dimmed the lights and showed footage from Earth's history. Wars, disasters, moments when humans faced impossible odds. See this? A mountain climber who cut off his own arm to survive. Here, soldiers who held a position against overwhelming force. There, civilians who walked hundreds of kilometers through hostile territory to reach safety. Humans have one rule: survive at any cost. The observers watched in horrified fascination. And now you've made them angry, Yejin said quietly. The Galactic Council let human children die. What do you think happens next? At the main shipyard orbiting Earth, Pilot Ju walked through the fighter bay. She ran her hand along the hull of her new ship, a sleek attack craft built for speed and aggression. Beautiful, isn't she? A mechanic said. She'll do, Ju replied. She had been flying since the Titan conflict, a civil war that had nearly destroyed human space decades ago. She knew combat. She knew death. A young pilot approached nervously. Commander Ju, I heard you flew at Titan. Is it true you survived being shot down 3 times in one battle? 4 times, Ju corrected. The 4th time they didn't count, because I stole an enemy ship to get home. The young pilot's eyes went wide. You stole an enemy ship. It wasn't being used. The pilot was dead. Ju shrugged. In war, you use what you have. Remember that. The aliens were fighting. They've had peace for hundreds of years. They don't remember what real war looks like. We're going to remind them. She climbed into her fighter cockpit and ran system checks. Everything responded perfectly. These ships were new, built with the latest technology, but more importantly, they were built by humans for humans. Fast, aggressive, and deadly. In the mesh hall of the Remember Them, war correspondent Boa interviewed crew members. She was documenting everything for the historical record. How do you feel about the upcoming battle? She asked a young gunner named Minho. He thought carefully before answering. Scared, but also ready. My cousin was on the New Dawn. She was 12 years old. So yeah, I'm scared, but I'm more angry than scared. Bora spoke to dozens of crew members. The story was the same each time. Fear mixed with determination. Everyone had lost someone or knew someone who had lost someone. The New Dawn had become personal for all of them. She interviewed Admiral Kyong-soo in his ready room. He looked tired but focused. Some people say this war is about revenge, Bora said. What do you say? It's about justice, Kyung-gu replied, and it's about making sure this never happens again. The Galactic Council thinks they can ignore us. They think human lives don't matter. We're going to prove them wrong. At what cost? Whatever it takes. His voice was hard. I've read the casualty projections. I know people will die, but if we don't do this, more humans will die later. Better to fight now on our terms. Bora's final interview was with former Ambassador Sora, who had volunteered to serve on the fleet as an advisor. She found her in the observation deck looking at Earth through the window. Do you regret trying diplomacy? Bora asked. No, Sora said. We had to try. We had to prove we wanted peace. But now we know the truth. The Council doesn't want peace with us. They want us to disappear, so we'll give them what they actually want. A demonstration of what humans can really do. You think we'll win? Sora smiled sadly. We're humans from Earth. We're apex predators from a world that tried to kill us every day. We learned to hunt, to fight, to survive against impossible odds. The aliens out there, they've had it easy for too long. They've forgotten what it means to really fight. She turned from the window. Yes, we'll win. The question is, what will become in the process? The final week before departure, every ship in the fleet received a small package. Inside was a sealed container of Earth's soil and a printed copy of Dawn's drawing, the one that said, "Please help." Admiral Kyongu sent a message to all ships. We carry this to remember why we fight. We fight for those who called for help and received silence. We fight so that never happens again. Remember the new dawn. Remember them all. In the training rooms, the corridors, the fighter bays, crew members looked at the drawing. Many cried. All remembered. The day of departure arrived. 240 warships hung in space, ready for battle. Crews stood at stations. Weapons were armed. Engines hummed with power. On the bridge of the Remember Them, Admiral Kyongu sat in his command chair. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency. They were ready. All ships report ready to jump, Tactical Officer Yunji reported. Kyongu took a deep breath. Once they jumped, there was no going back. Earth would be at war with the Galactic Council. He thought of his sister, his niece, 200 people who died alone in the dark. Jump, he ordered. Space rippled. 240 warships vanished into faster-than-light travel. When they emerged, they would bring something the galaxy hadn't seen in hundreds of years. Real war. The conference room in Pacific Command was silent as the recording played. Fleet Admiral Kyong-Soo stood at the head of the table, his hands clasped behind his back. His jaw was tight as he watched Captain Cho's final message on the screen. Around the table sat Earth's military council and government leaders. They watched the recording. They saw the desperate messages. They heard Wu Jin's voice growing weaker as he begged for help that never came. They saw Dawn's drawing with its simple plea, "Please help." When the recording ended, nobody spoke for a long moment. Kyong-Soo finally broke the silence. My sister was on that ship. She was the chief medical officer. She had a daughter, Nari. She was 8 years old. He turned to face the council members. His eyes were hard as stone. They let them die. Not by accident. Not because they couldn't help. They deliberately chose to let 200 people suffocate in the dark. Ambassador Sora, Earth's representative to the Galactic Council, leaned forward. She looked tired. "Admiral, I understand your anger. I share it. But we must be careful. If we act rashly, General Hanna cut her off. Ambassador, with respect, being careful hasn't worked. We've spent 20 years trying to join their council. 20 years of polite requests, and this is how they respond." Intelligence Director Chung Min opened a folder. "It's worse than you think. We've been investigating the new dawn wasn't the first." He distributed documents around the table. 7 human vessels in the last decade, all lost in or near council space. All sent distress signals. Dawn received help. The room erupted. People shouted questions. Someone slammed their fist on the table. Chongmen raised his voice. "We found intercepted communications. The council species have an informal policy. They call it natural containment. They believe if they ignore us, eventually humans will stop venturing into space. They think we're too dangerous to allow into the galaxy." Ambassador Sora looked at the documents, her face pale. "I've been arguing our case at the council for 5 years. They've been lying to my face the entire time." "It's not just lying," Chungmen continued. 3 days ago, there was a vote. The council formally designated Earth as a quarantine species. "We're banned from all council space. Any ship that enters will be destroyed without warning." The room exploded again. This time Kungu let them shout. Let them rage. They needed to feel it. Finally he raised his hand. Silence fell. Ambassador Sora, you've done your best, he said quietly. But diplomacy is finished. They don't want to talk. They want us to go away and die. We're not going to do that. Sora stood up. Admiral, I have to try one more time. Let me go to the council. Let me show them this recording. Let me make them see. See what? Kyung-Soo's voice was sharp. They already know. They knew while those people were dying. They heard every distress call. They made their choice. He pulled up a holographic display. It showed Earth's military assets, ships, weapons, personnel. I'm presenting Operation Reckoning to this council. If approved, we mobilize every available warship. We go to the Velcan hegemony first. They were closest. They blocked rescue attempts. They bear the most responsibility. And then someone asked, and then the other 5 species that ignored the distress call. All 6 will answer for what they did. The room erupted into debate. Some supported military action. Others urged caution. The argument went on for hours. Finally, they voted. The motion to authorize military action passed. Only one person voted against it. Ambassador Sora. She stood after the vote, tears on her face. I'll go to the council one last time. I'll show them this recording. I'll give them a chance to apologize to make this right. If they refuse, she took a deep breath. Then I'll come home and I'll support whatever action Earth decides to take. 3 days later, Ambassador Sora stood before the Galactic Council. The chamber was enormous, filled with representatives from hundreds of species. She played the recording of the New Dawn's final transmission. The council members watched. Some looked uncomfortable, most looked indifferent. A few whispered to each other, not even paying attention. When it finished, Sora spoke. This was preventable. This was murder. I'm here to ask for justice. I'm asking the Galactic Council to acknowledge its failure and work with humanity to ensure this never happens again. The Velcan representative stood. He was tall with blue-gray skin and 4 eyes. The human vessel entered restricted space without permission. The Velcan hegemony bears no responsibility for the consequences. They were dying. Sora's voice cracked. There were children. Perhaps humans should learn to maintain their ships properly. A krill representative said. Several species laughed. Sora stared at them in disbelief. They were laughing. While children suffocated, while families died together, these creatures laughed. The council chairman, an ancient being from a species Sora didn't recognize, spoke in a wheezing voice. The Galactic Council has reviewed Earth's petition. We acknowledge the unfortunate loss of life. However, humanity's aggressive nature and unstable world origin makes full council membership impossible at this time. This matter is closed. Closed. Sora felt something break inside her. 200 people are dead, and you call it closed. Ambassador, you are dismissed, the chairman said. Sora looked around the chamber. Hundreds of species, thousands of years of so-called civilization, and not one of them cared about 200 human lives. She walked out. She didn't look back. On the shuttle back to Earth, she recorded her resignation from the diplomatic service. Then she sent a message to Fleet Admiral Kyung-Soo. They don't want peace. Give them war. The message reached Pacific Command 3 days later. Kyung-Gu read it in his office alone. Then he issued the orders he had been preparing. Across Earth, Mars, and the Belt, shipyards roared to life. Construction crews worked triple shifts. Every available warship was pulled from patrol duty and refitted for combat. Factories produced weapons around the clock. The news spread across Earth. People took to the streets. Some protested, calling for peace. Most demanded action. They had seen the recording. They had heard Dawn's mother crying. They had watched the oxygen levels drop while the aliens laughed. Kyung-Soo gave a speech from Pacific Command. It was broadcast across all human space. Citizens of Earth, he began. You've all seen what happened to the New Dawn. You know that the Galactic Council chose to let our people die. They didn't help because they don't see us as equals. They see us as problems to be eliminated. He paused, letting his words sink in. For 20 years, we've tried peace. We've asked politely to be accepted. We've followed their rules. We've proven ourselves again and again. And still, they let our children die in the dark. His voice hardened. No more. We're done asking for permission. We're done proving ourselves to beings who don't value human life. The United Terran Fleet is mobilizing. We're going to make them answer for what they did. Every species that ignored our distress call will face consequences." He looked directly into the camera. "They left our children to die in the dark. They will learn what darkness truly means. This is Fleet Admiral Kiangu. Remember the new dawn. Remember them all." The speech ended. Across human space, people watched in silence. Then slowly they began to nod. Some cried, some cheered, but almost all agreed. It was time. The mobilization took 6 weeks. 240 warships assembled in formation around Earth. The fleet was larger than anything humanity had ever created. At its center was the flagship, newly commissioned and named. Remember them. Admiral Kyonggu stood on its bridge looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Galactic Council waited. They thought humans would accept this. They thought wrong. "All ships report ready, sir," his tactical officer reported. Sue nodded. "Set course for Velcon space. Maximum speed." "Yes, sir, Admiral. They'll see us coming." "Good," Kyonggu said coldly. "I want them to see us. I want them to have time to be afraid." The fleet engaged its FTL drives. 240 warships vanished into faster-than-light travel. Destination: Velcon Hegemony. ETA: 3 weeks. The war had begun. The warning lights turned red across the bridge of the new dawn. Captain Chiu gripped his command chair as the ship shuddered violently. Something had hit them. Something big. "Report," he shouted over the alarms. Engineer Hyen's fingers flew across her console. Her face went pale as the numbers came up. "The antimatter containment is failing. We hit debris at full speed. The housing is cracked." Chovo felt his stomach drop. Antimatter containment failure meant death. Quick if they were lucky, slow if they weren't. How long? Maybe 12 days before total failure. If we're lucky. "Hi," Jin looked up at him. "Captain, we need help fast." The new dawn carried 200 people, families, children. They had left Earth 3 months ago, heading for a new colony world. Now they were stranded 47 light-years from home, floating near the edge of Galactic Council space. "Wu Jin, send out a distress signal," Cho ordered. "Full spectrum. Make sure everyone can hear it." Communications Officer Wu Jin nodded and started broadcasting. "SOS. This is Colony Ship New Dawn. Registration TAN 7749. We have suffered critical damage and require immediate assistance. 200 souls aboard. Life support failing. Please respond." The message went out into the darkness of space and they waited. Hours passed. Then a full day. Wu Jun sent the signal again and again. His voice grew hoarse from recording the same message over and over. "Someone has to hear us," Cho said. "We're right on the border of council space. There are at least 6 stations within range." But no one answered. Down in the cargo bay, little Dawoon sat with her colored pencils. She was 7 years old, with bright eyes and messy hair. While the adults worried, she drew pictures. Earth with its blue oceans. Her house with the red door. Her dog that she missed. Her mother, Jun, sat beside her. "What are you drawing, sweetheart?" "Home," Dalian said simply. "So I don't forget what it looks like." Jess hugged her daughter close. She didn't tell her that they might never see home again. On the bridge, Chun stood over the sensor station. "Show me who's out there." The tactical officer brought up a map. 6 stations appeared glowing on the screen. The closest was a Velcan trade station, only 2 light hours away. Then there were others. A Krill military outpost, a council way station, a civilian mining colony. "They can all hear our signal," Wu Jin confirmed. "The transmission is clear. I've even sent it in 17 different languages." "Then why aren't they responding?" Heejin asked from her station. Nobody had an answer. 3 days passed. The ship systems began to fail one by one. First, the hot water stopped, then the heating in the aft compartments. Hygiene and her team worked around the clock, trying to keep the important systems running. The oxygen generators were the priority. Without them, everyone would suffocate long before the antimatter containment failed. "We're losing air," Hayen reported on day 4. "Recycling efficiency is down to 70%. We can stretch it maybe 8 more days. Cho made an announcement to the crew. He kept his voice steady, calm. We're in a difficult situation, but help will come. Someone will hear us. We just need to hold on. He didn't believe his own words anymore. On day 5, Wu Jin intercepted something. Captain, I'm picking up a transmission. It's from the Velcon station. Put it through. Cho jumped to his feet, but it wasn't a response to their SOS. It was a communication between the Velcon station and a passing trader ship. Wu Jin translated the alien language. The trader is asking if they should investigate the human distress signal, he said slowly. The Velcon station commander is telling them no. He says humans are too dangerous, that it's probably a trap. The bridge went silent. A trap. Haijin's voice shook with anger. We have children dying on this ship. Joe clenched his fists. Send another message. Tell them we're not a threat. Tell them we have families aboard. Children. Wu Jin sent the message. There was no reply. Day 6 brought worse news. Hyagin discovered that someone was actively jamming their signal. Every time an independent ship got close enough to pick up their SOS, something blocked the transmission. It's the Velcon station, she said, her voice flat with disbelief. They're deliberately stopping anyone from helping us. Why would they do that? Someone asked. Because we're from Earth, Cho said bitterly. We're Deathworlders. They think we're too violent, too dangerous. They want us to stay away from their precious council space. He thought about his government's attempts to join the Galactic Council. The applications sent year after year, always rejected, always told that humanity needed to prove itself first. Now he understood. The Council didn't want proof. They wanted humans to disappear. By day 9, the air was getting thin. People moved slowly, conserving energy. The children didn't run in the corridors anymore. They sat quietly with their parents, breathing shallow breaths. Dawn finished her last drawing. It showed Earth from space, beautiful and blue. At the top, in her child's handwriting, she wrote, "Please help." Her mother cried when she saw it. On day 11, Cho called Wu Jin to his ready room. I want you to make a final recording, something for Earth to find if they ever look for us. Wu Jin set up the camera. Cho sat down looking directly into the lens. He had not slept in 2 days. His eyes were red, but his voice was clear. This is Captain Cheo of the colony ship New Dawn. If you're watching this, we're probably dead. We sent out a distress call 11 days ago. 6 different alien stations received it. All of them ignored us. The Velcon hegemony actively prevented rescue attempts. They let us die because we're human, because they're afraid of us. He paused, collecting his thoughts. We called for help. No one came. Remember us. Remember that when they smile and talk about peace, they let 200 people die in the cold dark of space. Remember my crew. Remember the children. He held up Down's drawing to the camera. Remember that we asked for help. And remember that they said no. The recording ended. Cho sealed it in the ship's black box designed to survive anything. Then he went to the observation deck. Many of the crew were already there gathered together. They held hands and looked out at the stars. Nobody spoke. There was nothing left to say. 3 hours later, the oxygen ran out. The New Dawn became a tomb, drifting silently through space. Inside were 200 bodies and 1 black box, waiting to tell their story. 6 months passed before a salvage crew found the ship. They were human from Earth, searching for their lost colony ship. They found it floating dead in space. When they recovered the black box and played its contents, they wept. Then they sent everything back to Earth, and Earth listened to the captain's final words, and Earth remembered. The Velcon border station detected the human fleet first. Sensors Officer Mech4 stared at his display in disbelief. 240 signatures, all military, all heading directly toward Velcon space. Commander Theodore, we have incoming vessels, multiple warships. They're human. Commander Thelclor, a veteran of 30 years of peaceful border duty, looked at the display. He had heard reports about Earth mobilizing. He hadn't believed they would actually do anything. Humans were known for being loud and aggressive, but surely they understood the consequences of attacking council space. Hail them, he ordered. Tell them to turn back or be destroyed. The communication went out. There was no response. The human fleet kept coming. Sir, they're not slowing down. Range in 5 minutes. Thier felt his first moment of worry. Alert the HFY fleet. Tell them we need reinforcements. The message was sent, but the closest Velkan warships were hours away. The border station was alone, sir. Incoming transmission. It's not responding to our hail. It's a broadcast on all channels, and put it through. A human voice filled the station. It spoke in perfect Velkan language. This is Captain Cho of the colony ship New Dawn. We are experiencing critical system failures. 200 souls aboard. We require immediate assistance. Please respond. Then the message changed. A different voice, harder and colder. This message was sent 11 days ago. This station received it. This station ignored it. 200 humans died. This station will now answer for that decision. The transmission ended. Raise shields, Thier shouted. Charge weapons. Prepare for the human ships attacked. They didn't attack like civilized species. They didn't form organized battle lines or exchange warning shots. They came in fast at angles the Velkan sensors said were impossible. They used the gravity of nearby planets to slingshot themselves at speeds that should have torn their ships apart. The first salvo hit the station before the shields could fully activate. Kinetic projectiles moving at a fraction of light speed punched through armor like it was paper. The station shuddered. Alarm screamed, return fire, Thier ordered, but the human ships were already past them, moving too fast for the station's weapons to track. They looped around, using momentum in ways that made no sense. They weren't following standard combat doctrine. They weren't following any doctrine. They were fighting like predators. Captain Sun Ho commanded the destroyer Retribution. His ship was smaller than many in the fleet, but faster. He loved it for that. Target their weapon arrays, he ordered. I want them helpless, not dead. Not yet. His weapons officer, a woman named Hyosun, locked onto the station, firing. Plasma torpedoes streak across space. They hit the station's weapon mounts, melting them into slag. Within 2 minutes, the Velkan station was defenseless. Sun Ho opened a channel. Velkan station, stand down. You will be boarded. You can't do this. Thier's voice was panicked. This is an act of war. Yes, Song Ho said simply. It is. The Retribution moved alongside the station. Boarding pods launched, magnetic clamps attaching to the hull. Human Marines cut through the airlocks. Major Dong-Su led the first team. His Marines moved through the station corridors with their weapons ready. They had trained for this. The Velkan crew, who had never seen combat, scattered in panic. Don't kill unless necessary, Dong-Gu ordered. We want them to tell others what happened here. The Marines moved with frightening efficiency. In 15 minutes, they had secured the entire station. Velkan crew members were rounded up, disarmed, and held in their own mess hall. Dong-Gu found Commander Theolor on the bridge, trying to delete computer files. Step away from the console, Dong-Gu ordered. Theolor looked at the human Marine. He had 4 eyes, seeing more than humans could. But right now, all 4 eyes showed fear. Humans were supposed to be small, weak, but this one was enormous in combat armor, holding a weapon that could cut through a bulkhead. You can't do this, Theolor said. The Galactic Council let our children die. Dong-Su cut him off. Sit down. Shut up. You'll be released after we're done here. Thier sat. He watched as human technicians copied all the station's data files, communication logs, records of the distress calls they had ignored, evidence. When they were done, the humans left. They didn't destroy the station. They didn't kill anyone. They just took what they wanted and departed. Before his ship left, Captain Song Ho sent one more transmission. Tell your superiors the humans are here. Tell them we're not going away. Tell them this is just the beginning. News of the border station attack spread through Velkan space within hours. Commander Thelor's report was dismissed at first. Humans couldn't possibly attack like that. It had to be exaggerated. Then 2 more stations went silent. Admiral Kung Su stood on the bridge of the Remember Them, watching tactical displays. His fleet had split into task forces, hitting multiple targets simultaneously. It was working better than planned. 3 stations secured. Admiral Tactical Officer Yunji reported, "No casualties on our side. Falcon forces completely unprepared. They've had peace for 300 years. Kyonggu said, "They've forgotten what war looks like. Continue the operation." The human fleet moved deeper into Velcon space. They avoided civilian targets, focusing on military installations and key infrastructure. Everywhere they went, they broadcast the same message. The recording of the New Dawn's final transmission. The psychological impact was devastating. Velkan citizens heard the desperate calls for help. They heard their own government refusing assistance. Many were horrified. Some were ashamed. Others were angry at humanity for forcing them to confront their failure. The Velcon military finally responded in force. Fleet Commander Rectal assembled 80 warships, twice the size of the human task force in his sector. He was confident. Humans might be tricky, but they were still just one small species against the might of the hegemony. The battle happened near Helix Gate, a major trading hub. Rectal's fleet formed standard defensive formations, ready to destroy the human ships. But the humans didn't fight the way he expected. They split into small groups, 3 or 4 ships each. They attacked from multiple angles at once. They used civilian traffic as cover, knowing the Velcan ships would hesitate to fire near civilians. They fired weapons and then immediately changed course, never staying in one place. Rectal's formations fell apart. His ships couldn't coordinate against enemies that refused to fight properly, and the human weapons were terrifyingly effective. Kinetic projectiles that his sensors barely detected before impact, plasma torpedoes that burned through shields. But worse was when human ships got close. Captain Ju led a fighter wing straight into the heart of Rectal's fleet. Her squadron moved so fast that the Velcon targeting systems couldn't track them. They flew between the massive warships firing at engines and weapon mounts. "They're inside our formation," Rex Tactical Officer shouted. "We can't fire without hitting our own ships." Jia's voice came over the open channel, speaking Velcan. "You should have helped them. You should have saved those children." Her squadron destroyed 3 cruisers before the Velcan fleet even managed to organize a response. By then, other human ships had flanked them, attacking from behind. The battle lasted 3 hours. When it ended, the Velcan fleet was shattered. Rectal's flagship was crippled. 43 Velcan warships destroyed or disabled. Human losses: 5 fighters, 1 corvette, 78 human casualties. By galactic standards, humans had taken horrifying losses. 78 dead was a catastrophe. By human standards, it was an acceptable price for victory. Rekt sat in his damaged bridge, staring at the tactical display in shock. How had they lost? They had superior numbers, better technology, more experience, but they hadn't fought a real war in generations. The humans had on the remember them. Admiral Kyonggu received reports from all fronts. The campaign was going well. Too well, perhaps. The Velcon hegemony was collapsing faster than projected. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Galactic Council," a communications officer reported. "They're requesting an immediate ceasefire." "Ignore it," Kyonggu said. "We're not done, Admiral. They're threatening sanctions. They say if we don't stop, they'll consider Earth an enemy of the Council." Kyong-Su almost laughed. "They already considered us enemies. They just didn't have the courage to say it out loud. Tell them we'll stop when justice is served." He turned to Yunji. "Send a message to all human forces. The Velcon hegemony was just the beginning. There were 5 other species that ignored our distress call. We're going to visit each one." The message was sent. Across the fleet, human crews received it. Some cheered. Some looked worried. All understood. The war was expanding. In the Galactic Council chambers, panic spread. The humans were actually doing it. They were fighting multiple council species simultaneously, and they were winning. "We must intervene," one counselor shouted. "We must stop them with what?" Another replied. "Who wants to fight them? Who wants their marines boarding their ships? Who wants to face what the Velcans faced?" The chamber erupted into arguments. Species pointed fingers at each other. The unity of the council built over thousands of years cracked. And on Earth, people watched the broadcasts. They saw the victories. They saw the names of the dead scrolling across screens.